may be seated. Good morning. My name is Daniel Fuster, and it's my honor and privilege to have been asked to be a part of this celebration of life ceremony for Mark Giesbrecht. What to say? We couldn't have asked for a more beautiful day. We couldn't have asked for a more Christmassy season. If you know Mark at all, this would have been his plans. First things first, we're going to have Danielle come up and do the obituary.
Hello, everyone. It is with heavy hearts that we announce the unexpected yet peaceful passing of our son, brother, friend, Mark Giesbrecht on November 25th, 2023, in his home at the age of 39. Mark is predeceased by his sister Dana Giesbrecht, Martin and Gertrude Giesbrecht, his Oma and Opa, and his uncles Jake and Luke. He leaves us to mourn with his father Ed, mother Fran, brother Justin with his wife Danny, sister Gina with her husband Michael, and grandparents Abe and Catherine Unger, as well as many aunts, uncles, and cousins. Mark was born on February 21st, 1984, in Winnipeg, Manitoba, and grew up in Niverville, a community where he would remain a part of his entire life. He attended school at Niverville Elementary before moving on to SRSS and their program for special needs. Mark was born with Down syndrome as many other medical conditions, including a heart condition which required open heart surgery at the age of only 5 months. He has surpassed every doctor's predicted life expectancy and went on to live a full and vibrant life.
Mark moved into his new home in Niverville in 2005, where he lived with Tim and Chad Falk. He also attended the Envision program at Edith's Place in Steinbach. Mark had a love for music, dancing, McDonald's, and Christmas. He was always so full of joy and laughter and was always the center of attention. But his unconditional love for others is what many people will remember. His joyous character will be greatly missed, and those whose lives were touched by his will forever remember Mark and his love.
Thank you. Thank you. Mark loved music. Mark loved action and anything that was colorful and beautiful and bright. So the family has asked Ruth and Denise and team to do a flagging dance for them. So if you guys would make your way up here, we'll get this pulpit out of the way. Thank you. Next, we're going to have some tributes to Mark from some family, friends, and people who worked with him for years and years, who got to enjoy the bright light that he was. So first, we're going to call up Cheryl and Danae.
Hi. Ooh. For those of you who don't know us, we are Mark's cousins. I'm Cheryl, and this is Danae. I was fortunate enough to grow up with Mark. I've spent a lot of time with Mark over the years. We did lots of things together, like camping, driving to BC in a motorhome. I swear he didn't sleep more than 5 minutes that whole drive. Lots of sleepovers, and seeing him at school. I was also his caretaker for a few summers and some weekends. It never felt like work with Mark. It was just me going to spend my days with my favorite cousin. Getting to spend so much one-on-one time with Mark, it became clear just how similar we were. Uncle Ed, in true Griesbrecht fashion, would tell me to wake him up at 8 o'clock. But we both liked sleeping in, so I'd often have a morning nap when I'd get there and let Mark sleep till 9:30 or 10. Sorry, Uncle Ed. It was never anything short of entertaining being with Mark. We would dance, sing, listen to music, and joke around. It was Christmas music all year round with Mark, and I still know every single VeggieTales song ever written. If you wanted to get him out of the house, it always helped if McDonald's or Pepsi was involved. Mark was a true Giesbrecht, very stubborn, and at times had very little patience. He would always let you know when he was all done. See you, enough. Mark had a way of lighting up the room whenever he was around. He loved to make people laugh and bring a smile to their faces, whether it be pulling you in for a dance or a big squeeze hug. A favorite memory of Mark from my kids was last year at Christmas. They were trying to get everybody's attention, so my mom said, "Mark, shh, we have to be quiet." And Mark yelled, "Quiet!" When we were living in town, we would often bring Mark some of our fresh baking and stay for a quick visit. My kids loved to stop in and would talk about him for days to follow. It was important to me that my kids got to know Mark like I did, a cousin, a friend, the happiest guy in the room. He had such an impact on everybody that met him. I'm so grateful to him for all that he taught me. What he taught me the most was to be patient, accepting of everybody, how to make light of situations, and to laugh at life. I've been fortunate enough to teach my kids these same lessons through Mark. Mark is going to be missed dearly by so many. There's a song, "Dancing in the Sky," that will forever remind me of Mark now. I hope you're dancing in the sky, and I hope you're singing in the angels' choir, and I hope the angels know what they have. I bet it's so nice up in heaven since you arrived.
Yeah, so I'm Danae. I am Mark's cousin. Mark was born just 2 months after me, and we grew up quite literally alongside each other, as we were also neighbors, up until he moved into his Envision home in 2005. Mark was a very big part of my life, especially in my younger years, and I have so many special memories with him. I'd say some of my earliest memories with Mark were always quite fun, lots of balloon volleyball, music, and dance parties. I have a pretty vivid memory of going to an appointment with Mark and Auntie Fran. I remember big exercise balls and Mark getting to rub shaving cream on a mirror. Man, was I jealous. It was little moments like these that ended up planting a seed for me that quite truly affected my course in life. As we grew a bit older, we got to enjoy some different experiences together that I will always cherish. We flew on a plane and spent lots of time in the pool at the Palm Springs condo. Back at home, jumping on the trampoline, getting Mark to laugh so hard he couldn't even stand up anymore. Bringing him into the ball pit at the McDonald's playground and playing for so long and then trying to convince him to get out. So many music sing-along videos. To this day, I can sing along to almost any random old Disney song, and I give Mark all the credit for that. Mark had such a contagious laugh, and he really was quite a tease. He loved to tickle and jump out and yell, "Boo!" in his booming voice. Sometimes when I was older and staying with him, I'd be studying down in the kitchen, and he would randomly start throwing things over the upstairs banister to make a loud noise. He, of course, always thought this was hilarious. Together, we enjoyed countless lunches, so much peanut butter and honey, grilled cheese, and Kraft dinner. As we got older, it was sometimes driving together to McDonald's to get out of the house and enjoy a good cheeseburger and Pepsi or some ice cream. As Cheryl already mentioned, Mark also had his stubborn side, and man, could he put his foot down. And there was a period of time when I helped him get onto the school bus in the morning. Well, if he decided today was not a day he wanted to go, then he would just sit down in the middle of the driveway. And there was no amount of convincing that could get him to budge. He was also pretty honest about when he wanted to be left alone, and you learned quite quickly to not get offended if Mark decided he was all done and you were promptly shoved out of the room and said goodbye to. Mark was always such an easy person to be around. He was quick to dance with you, laugh with you, and join in on the fun. There was always such a joy and lightness about him that could get you out of any mood. And if you were sad, Mark was the first one to comfort you with a hug and laying his head on your shoulder, as you could see in many pictures, in solidarity. He really had such a soft heart. I'm sure we're all going to miss those big hugs from him. So as I looked back and was remembering about things, I wonder, why were we here, the chosen ones, who had the privilege to have Mark in our lives? What did we all do to deserve Mark and all this love he gave for almost 40 years? I think this helps me to feel nothing but grateful. Mark had so much love to give, and he gave it so freely. His love didn't come with pretense. It didn't come with expectation or pride. His love did not judge, and he definitely did not hold grudges. Mark simply wanted your love, and he gave his right back in return. He taught me so much about love and compassion, about cherishing simple joys in life, and that we all need loved ones in our corner who want the best for us and are always rooting for us. I know we will all miss him, his smiles and his hugs and his physical presence, and probably even those big burps. But I'm so grateful for my time with Mark, and I'm so, so grateful for everything he taught me. I know this is not a goodbye, but a see you soon, Mark. In the meantime, please keep the music going for us.
Thank you. Next, I'd like to call up the Envision team, who would like to do their tribute.
I started working with Mark at Edith's Place about 12, 13 years ago. And he was just a joy. He was very true to himself. He would let you know exactly what he wanted and what he didn't want. But being true to himself, he was a real joy. He could be very determined to get somebody's attention, especially at McDonald's. You know, you would repeatedly say, "Hello, how are you?" And you'd have to say, "Well, Mark, that man is busy right now. He's trying to remember his order. Now, what is our order?" I remember one time at McDonald's, I'd come back from putting our tray away, and here's Mark with his hand to the next booth behind him, shaking hands with 3 teens, and then pray. And I thought, only Mark could do that and get away with it. I can't see my notes, but anyhow, taking my glasses off. I just want to talk a little bit about his last evening I was on. I started working at the house during COVID, and now I was there every Friday night. And it was a real privilege to be there. Mark's evening, he was a little bit slower at coming to eat. He was not into ballooning at all, which was so not him. But we were baking and playing music, and he was hanging out at the counter, and the first song that came on was I'll Fly Away, and he was just like, in his baritone operatic, I'll fly away, you know, just shaking both hands and just the biggest grin on his face. And then he had his cookies and vegan ones. And then later on in the evening, he was sitting on the floor. He would slap the floor, like, sit here. And so he sat down, and Beach Boys were playing. I don't know if it was something about that song. It was good, good, good vibrations. But he made his sour face. He used to go into all these, every face possible, but that night he just made a sour face. And then tears in his eyes, and he said, love. And I said, oh, you love that music? Love, Mom, Dad. And then for the rest of the evening, it was love. Love you, Mom, Dad. And then later on, we made our way to his room to get ready for bed, and it was love. And I'd say, to you, to you, to you, to you. When we got to the door to his room, unusually, he wanted to pray at that time. So we prayed for a good night's sleep and then went through his routine. The last part of that routine is when you're shutting off the tap, you flick water in his face, and he makes a big reaction. Yeah, so I'm just very grateful that I was there that night. So grateful to have worked with him. He was definitely a person who gave you energy.
Hi, everyone. My name is Kim, and I've had the privilege of working with Mark since 2014. The staff have sent me some words, and I'd like to share those with you today. Mark was an absolute original, marvelously unique. He didn't follow trends or popular opinion. Mark followed his heart and bore the scars to prove it. Mark was in the business of smiles and his trademark grin. This generated countless smirks across the masses. His personality was contagious before it was popular to spread things through close contact. Mark was a performer, and all of life, a stage. His productions only required the help of a DJ, backup dancer, and a few vocals. Not too many, though, or you risk getting shushed for being too loud. Staff would arrive on shift at Cutler's, and you would find Mark quietly sitting cross-legged on the floor, conducting an invisible orchestra, some sweet, silent song. Often, we would wonder what wonderful mysteries he was solving. Mark lived for Christmas. Music, McDonald's, big bangs, hilarious jokes, and most of all, the people in his life whom he adored, and there were many. Mark was surrounded by pictures of friends and family in his room, and we would often see him pointing and looking at those pictures. Mark has taught us all so many lessons in life: how to love unconditionally, pray for the people we love, how to sit in silence and feel immense joy just being around each other. And then he simply would say, all done, or bye-bye. Mark also expressed joy to see you every single time. It didn't matter how often. Mark's hugs were like a cookie. You could never leave without having just one. Mark existed so fearlessly and confidently, it was pure magic to witness. Mark put others before himself, especially when someone was sad or upset. He would offer hugs or say enough. Mark was a creature of habit and enjoyed the simple things: a favorite t-shirt, requesting toast, or squealing with delight when it was Pepsi. He would give you a big, yes, sir. He was our cupboard closer who loved to sing country roads and to go for truck rides to look and watch for trains. Mark had a wonderful relationship with his roommate. He modeled love, understanding, and patience. He required at least 3 hugs a day from Chad. As you can imagine, there are going to be so many stories and memories of how great a man Mark was. We could talk all day about the impact he has made. And it has been a great honor to share in Mark's joy. And I know I speak for all the support staff and our Envision family in saying it will take some time making amends with the loss of such a powerful and loving person.
Thank you. Next, I'll call up Mark's brother and sister, Gina and Justin.
Well, Mark, since you left us, I've been taking many trips down memory lane. They bring a smile to my face that quickly fades into tears, knowing that I'll never be able to make another memory with you here on earth. I've been asked many times this past week how I'm doing, and the reality is that I'm not doing well. And I'm not sure how long it will be until I find the joy that has been missing since you left us. Your absence is very much noticed, making what should be a happy time of year very sad and gray. I dread Christmas this year without you here. Your loud voice when you come through the door at Mom and Dad's house, making sure everyone knew you had arrived. Your refusal to eat your own food, but will gladly take anyone else's plate. And the painfully slow way you opened your gifts, because you didn't actually care what was inside, but the fact that all eyes were on you and you had to make a spectacle of it. I am, however, grateful of the fact that I did get to spend 31 Christmases with you and make memories that I have with you that I will cherish forever. Growing up, I thought everyone had a Mark. I did not understand what was so different about you. You had your good days and you had your bad days, like everyone else. You were also super annoying when we had to take you shopping with us because you wanted to say hi to every single person in the store. How about all those family dinners where we were not allowed to talk because if we talked too loudly, or God forbid we laughed, all the contents of the table would be thrown across the floor. Mark, you loved McDonald's so much that we had to start calling it the Golden Arches, just so you wouldn't catch on to what we were referring to. As I got older, I started to see what really made you special. Your unconditional love for every person you met, the way you would sing and dance, the way you tried to comfort those who were sad, trying to make it all better. You were an angel on earth, Mark, which in return made me incredibly protective over you. Mark, I would have gone to the ends of the earth for you if that's what it took for you to be safe and happy. I won the lottery having you as my brother, but now my heart aches for you. Time stands still, and everything around me moves in slow motion. I haven't figured out how I'm going to navigate my life without you here. You were so consistent in my life. I always knew I could find you at your home, in your room, probably with the lights off, listening to music and watching Frozen. You would always be happy to see me, greet me with one of your massive smiles, and immediately ask for a hug. I strive to be like you, Mark. I think J.R.R. Tolkien said it best when he wrote, "I have found that it is the small, everyday deeds of ordinary folks that keep the darkness at bay, small acts of kindness and love." That was you, Mark. You helped so many people step out of their darkness, even if it was just for a few minutes, and showed them what kindness and love feels like. Now, I know you might not be here in body, but I know you're here in spirit. I'm sure I've taken up too much of your attention span already, and you have many years of catching up with Dana to do. I look forward to the day that all 4 of us siblings are reunited. What a glorious, loud, obnoxious, hilarious, and downright ridiculous reunion that will be. So until then, in the famous words of Mark Edward Giesrecht, all done. Bye-bye.
I'm Justin. I'm Mark's brother. I spent my entire childhood with Mark. We shared bunk beds until I was about 10 or 12 at least. And as you can tell by all the pictures, we also kind of shared the same outfits. At least we were given the same ones. As a special needs brother with Down syndrome, we had this special language. Many of the mimicry sounds he made were from us goofing around as kids, making funny sounds and faces to make each other laugh. We would usually get in trouble together, and while it was easy for the most part to just put the blame on Mark, it was usually warranted, as he was the one who loved to be the center of attention and make the mess. He really knew how to keep people on their toes, and tossing things around the house was his way of playing pranks on the family. As most of you know, Mark's Down syndrome was quite severe. He didn't have the ability to live independently or talk with good communication. Each time he spoke in his simple one-word sentences, many people would give a confused look at me going, "What did he say?" I always knew exactly what he was trying to say. That was the beginning of our brotherly bond, that special language we had. Even without good communication skills, he was still able to teach me so many things about life without ever talking about it. He was like that wise old man that never says anything but waits patiently until you understand the lesson and then looks at you with that smile of, "Yeah, you get it." At first, he was my big brother that I would follow around. But as I grew up and hopefully grew more responsible, I became the big brother. Given the task of taking care of him, we spent so much time sitting together, listening to music or watching Disney sing-along movies. Even though I was the younger brother, I quickly became the bigger brother, and I was always so protective of Mark and what others thought or said about him. I was constantly ready to throw down on anyone who mocked him, made fun of him, or bullied him. But this was the first of many lessons that Mark taught me. My readiness to fight for him and defend him kept me on edge my entire childhood and teenage years. But that's also what kept me away from enjoying the moments with him. Mark didn't care. Mark was always in his own world, shutting out any negativity, hate, or discrimination that was directed at him. And that is what allowed him to live in pure joy. He never let negative thoughts or actions destroy that perfect day. Another thing he taught me was a bit of a two-for-one, gratitude and humility. This is the biggest thing that Mark ever taught me, and it was simply done by me watching him live. I would see how blissful he was just listening to music for 16 hours straight through an entire day. Not once being bored or tired of listening to the same Christmas songs played on repeat. He wasn't able to drive or go to a friend's house for a sleepover or even play any sports. But no matter how bad a day got, he was always joyful in the simple things. I was able to play so many sports, take care of myself, and have my own independence. And watching Mark made me so grateful for the extra things that I could do in life that he would never be able to do. He is what kept me grounded, learning to live with gratitude in the simple things and live with humility, knowing that I was blessed with the ability to do these things. He was my anchor, and he kept me steady in the waves of life. Mark's condition also gave me the ability to interact with kids, especially those with special needs. One example, I was playing hockey in Connecticut. I played my first home game, and as I was walking down the tunnel after a game, I noticed a young father with his little boy standing at the glass near our tunnel. I immediately noticed the young boy had Down syndrome. I motioned him over to the tunnel and asked him, "Is this your son? Does he have Down syndrome?" Surprised and looking hesitant, the father responded, "Yeah, his name is Luke." He was about 4 or 5 years old. I said, "Hi, Luke, my name is Justin." And I explained to the dad that I have a brother with Down syndrome and that I saw a lot of Mark in his little son. I asked if they wanted to meet the back after the game, and I was able to have a lengthy chat about having a sibling with Down syndrome and how it gives us such a blessed life to have someone so special in it. The father's name was Dominic. I became great friends with the family, especially Luke, who I would go skate with. I would hang out with all the time and watch New York Rangers games. It made me miss Mark so much, and I wanted to go home to be with my brother, but I felt like I was still enjoying the spirit of Mark during those times. Many times I considered moving away, but the sole reason that I stayed rooted in Niverville was because of Mark. I knew that I wanted to be wherever he was. Now, everyone knew of Mark's love for music, his dancing in McDonald's. Like I said, it was the simple things that brought him endless joy. But because he was so in love with music, I want to share some lyrics from a song that remind me of him from the Hollies. Some of the older generation might know this one. "So on we go. His welfare is of my concern. No burden is he to bear." Yikes. We'll get there. "For I know he would not encumber me. He ain't heavy. He's my brother. If I'm laden at all, I'm laden with the sadness that everyone's heart isn't filled with the gladness of love for one another. It's a long, long road from which there is no return. While we're on the way to there, why not share? And the load doesn't weigh me down at all. He ain't heavy, he's my brother. Following Mark's passing, a friend reached out to me, and he shared a story about Mark's outlook on life. He said, I have a number of memories of Mark, but one that particularly stands out occurred at George's Burgers and Subs in Winnipeg. So many burger places here. In his uniquely wonderful way, Mark struck up a conversation with a stranger about burgers. Not content with just the talk, he ended the conversation with a request for a hug. I never felt the need to apologize for Mark's actions, no matter how out of the ordinary they may seem to some. To me, they were expressions of love, the kind of genuine, heartfelt connection the world desperately needs more of. Imagine a world where everyone embraced the ease of a friendly chat over burgers and ended the conversation with a hug. The world would be a better place. Mark's ability to sense someone's pain and respond with just the right hug was nothing short of a gift. He had this unique way of breaking down barriers and connecting with people, strangers or friends, with his infectious and warm kindness. He knew just how to bring happiness into others' lives. He was the epitome of purest love and joy. The world never deserved Mark, but he's exactly what the world needed in order to learn what unconditional love and simple happiness looks like. I think anyone who knew him learned a little something from him just by being near him. I'm going to miss him so much, his hugs, his smile, his laugh in our special language. I wish I could spend just one more day with him, soaking up each ounce of life he brought into mine and the lessons that he continued to teach me. When people in our community remember the Giesbrecks, it's not me, my sister, or anyone else, it's always Mark. He was so special to everyone who knew him in the community because he was always the first one to yell, "Hi!" and then wave relentlessly until the stranger waved back. He was the cornerstone of our family and the center of attention in my world at home, and his memory will continue to be the center of all our lives. We can hold on to the hope that he is now with his sister, Oma, Opa, uncles and friends in heaven, and he's probably talking nonstop, telling about his love for everyone. One last time for you, Mark. I love you.
Thank you. So I was asked to give a message as well. You guys just made it super easy for me, thanks. I grew up down the street from Mark for I think most of my entire life, until I graduated. And I remember seeing Mark regularly. I said this on Justin's social media post about it, but I remember seeing Mark. We were probably we're on a corner, so two, 3 houses down. I remember Mark careening past our place often, with or without shoes, maybe with one shoe. And I think I've definitely seen every member of your family chasing him at least one time. And I remember going over there. It's a bit foggy, but I remember the vibe. I remember we were having lunchtime or something, me and Justin were playing. And Mark was doing Mark things, and I just remember the sense like, man, this guy does what he wants. What a chief. He just runs down the street. He doesn't eat the bad stuff. He only eats the good stuff. He's an amazing example of a man's man. At 7 years old or whatever he was. To Mark, everyone, as people have pointed out, was a potential friend or a mandatory one. And one aspect of his life that the family wanted to make clear is that Mark loved Jesus. This was clear if you spent any time with him, whether it was his obvious 24/7, 365 enjoyment of the Christmas season, or walking him through his nighttime routine, which included prayers and declarations of Jesus' love for him and anyone else who came to his mind. While these examples are more blatant and obvious in the sense of outward manifestations, I think a far more earnest example of Christ working in Mark's life was in how Mark loved others. You couldn't tell he loved Jesus just because he said it. You could tell it because of how he lived his life. Mark didn't have a degree in philosophy. He didn't attend a prestigious Bible school or have any fancy letters after his name, broadcasting his pedigree as a biblical scholar. He wasn't the pastor of a church or the leader of a small group. But according to Jesus, what Mark did was far more impressive and far more important than any of those things. Jesus said in John 13, verse 34, "A new command I give you, love one another. As I have loved you, so you must love one another." The Apostle Paul builds on this in 1 Corinthians 13, verse 8, when he says, "Love never fails. But where there are prophecies, they will cease. Where there are tongues, they will be stilled. Where there is knowledge, it will pass away. For we know in part and we prophesy in part. But when the completeness comes, what is in part will disappear. When I was a child, I talked like a child. I thought like a child. I reasoned like a child. But when I became a man, I put away childhood behind me. And now we see only a reflection as in a mirror. Then we shall see face to face. Now I know in part. Then I shall know fully, even as I am fully known. And now these three remain, faith, hope, and love. But the greatest of these is love." I thought it was so amazing when, I don't know your name, I'm sorry, but the worker talked about how Mark shared about love and love and love. And looking at Mark's life, I didn't get to spend as much time with him as the family did, obviously. But just looking at what he went through, as someone who does a lot of ministry and is a normal human being, I've encountered a lot of people who regularly say they struggle to live out the Christian life. We list limitations, trials, failures as part of a plethora of reasons why we struggle to live for God. Once problem A is gone, then I'll get there. We wait for circumstances to clear up before we let the life of Christ flow through us. Watching Mark, for me, challenged a lot of these ideas. The life that Mark lived demonstrates in a profoundly unadorned way the simplicity of the gospel and what the victory of Christ in a man's heart looks like. From birth, Mark faced many challenges, from his journey with Down syndrome, heart troubles, arthritis, his inability to communicate exactly how he felt. The odds were stacked against him. He faced many trials, he faced many mountains, and in a very real sense, what Mark had to overcome wasn't fair. And although this is all true, no one who spent any time with him would ever suggest that Mark ever struggled to love. Mark exuded joy, hope, and faith, and tenacity in and through the challenges he went through. If this isn't a clear display of the heart of Jesus working in him, then there isn't one. Jesus' life was marked with trials, persecutions, unwarranted, unfair, accused of crimes he didn't commit, being brought before tribunals, sentenced to death on a cross. Yet silent, he went forward, not complaining, not cursing creation. In the midst of it, he exuded the love of the Father to all he encountered, despite the injustice and abuse he endured. If anybody had an excuse to take his ball and go home, it was Jesus. If anybody had an excuse to call it quits and give up because things were too hard, it was him. And thinking about Mark's life, perhaps the Christian life isn't just about what you can get out of it. It's not just about how you can be blessed, how your life can be easier, how you can get all the best parking stalls, how your trails can become less of a challenge, how you can walk easy peasy through life and float down the lazy river of Christ's call. Perhaps it's about, like Mark showed us, choosing to love when all the circumstantial evidence says it's not realistic. Perhaps it's about having your heart preserved and kept in the midst of disaster and chaos. Perhaps it's about remaining unstained by the world which so desperately endeavors to make you in its own image. Perhaps the gospel is about loving those who don't deserve it and working to put a smile on the faces of those who wouldn't do it in return. Perhaps it's about walking and displaying the love of God in the midst of every storm, trial, and pain. Perhaps it's about refusing to let a sin against me produce sin in me. The gospel is a heart encounter with your Creator, who gives you His Spirit, who forms and fashions your heart to look like His and says, now go out there and show them who I am. Christ's victory takes place in the hearts of men and women. And that victory, like Scripture says, flows out of our inmost being and into the world around us. Christ's victory in Mark's heart was abundantly clear. Mark was a profound example of God's love to all who encountered him. His gentleness, kindness, and friendly love was a beacon in a dark world. Despite what he faced, despite what he had to personally overcome, despite the stigmas about people with Down syndrome, despite the challenges of communication, the light that was in Mark shone through, and the darkness did not overcome it. To summarize this whole thing in one sentence, I would say, follow Mark's example. Don't let the darkness of our world overcome the light that is in you. I'll say it. If you don't love your life, I'd invite you to give it to someone who does. My heart was transformed by Jesus. I know the Giesbrecht families were as well. He did it for Mark, he did it for me, and he'll do it for whoever calls on him. When we encounter that love that Mark so easily gave away free of charge, it transforms you, man. It's disarming. It takes all the guards down. Nobody could do that like Mark. Nobody could do that like Mark. And I would suggest that that was an expression of the Father heart of God to each and every one of us living through him. Next, we're going to have a slideshow that the family's prepared with some music to go along with it. So we can cue that up. Owen, you can make your way to the front. In true Mark fashion, we are going to sing some Christmas songs. So as Owen comes up here, I'll invite you all to stand. Oh, come, all ye faithful, joyful and triumphant. Oh, come ye to Bethlehem. Come and behold him, born the King of angels. Oh, come, let us adore him. Oh, come, let us adore him. Oh, come, let us adore him, Christ the Lord. Sing choirs of angels, sing in exaltation, sing all ye citizens of heaven above. Glory to God, all glory in the highest. Oh, come, let us adore him. Oh, come, let us adore him. Oh, come, let us adore him, Christ the Lord. Yea, Lord, we greet thee, born this happy morning. Jesus, to thee be all glory given. Word of the Father, now in flesh appearing. Oh, come, let us adore him. Oh, come, let us adore him. Oh, come, let us adore him, Christ the Lord. Joy to the world, the Lord is come. Let earth receive her King. Let every heart prepare him room. And heaven and nature sing, and heaven and nature sing, and heaven the glories of his righteousness and wonders of his love and wonders of his love and wonders Thank you. You may be seated. As we conclude this celebration of life, we have one more clip to show you of Mark singing the very song we just sang. If you would cue that up, Joel. So I will close in prayer, and we'll let the family leave first, and so on and so forth, all the rows, all the way to the back. Jesus, thank you so much that we got to experience the life of Mark Giesbrecht. Thank you for the gift that he was, Lord. Jesus, you talk about how there's seeds that we get to plant as we're here on earth. Thank you that there are so many seeds that he planted of life, joy, hope, peace, fun, that are going to continue growing for years and decades to come. We've all received blessing from Mark. He was truly a gift. And Lord, while we are no longer with him on this side, we thank you that because of your sacrifice, we will see him again. Unencumbered by the pains of life and the struggles he went through, he is free, truly. And we just, we thank you for who he was and who he is and continues to be. We ask that you would be with the family as they grieve, but also continue to fill them with the hope that Mark operated in as well. In Jesus' name, amen. There is a spread they're preparing that you can all feel free to take part in. And yeah, that concludes the ceremony. Thank you so much.